What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Game Script. We're looking at the AFC Conference Championship between the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs in this one. And there are several players on this that should be lower owned or sneaky that we can take advantage of to build our lineups a little bit differently. And I'm going to get into it right after this. What's up, guys? Simon Edwards at Pumacom here with Heat Seeker Sports, and you're watching Game Script. Going to be taking a look at the conference championship game between the Buffalo Bills and Kansas City Chiefs. We're looking at a 48.5 point total with the Bills as 1.5 point dogs in this one, playing in Kansas City. So we got a rematch that we've seen several times over the past few years of two of the best teams in the AFC facing off against each other. Typically, the way these play out is the Kansas City Chiefs win the regular season, or they win in the postseason, and the Buffalo Bills win in the regular season. At least that's the way it's gone the past few years. But eventually the Buffalo Bills have to win one of these postseason games against the Chiefs and make it to the Super Bowl. Maybe this is the year to do it. I happen to think that the Chiefs are probably a lot better than they have looked, especially recently. This past year, they have gotten a lot healthier as the year went on, and they're playing probably now at the healthiest that they've played all season, which is not great for Buffalo, but we'll get into that in a minute. Make sure to hit that like button. Give me the 30 likes to put out my favorite picks in the comment section when we get closer to lock, and make sure to subscribe to the channel. Looking for 1,800 subscribers. I needed about 70 left to get there. I want to get there before the Super Bowl, so if you guys can help me out, that'd be great. You're going to want to subscribe. I got all sorts of Super Bowl content coming. Got a ton of experts coming on to help me break down the Super Bowl. And I'm going to do a variety of game scripts that week, and you're not going to want to miss it. So subscribe to the channel and hit the alert button so you know when these shows pop up. They pop up at random times, which is all the more incentive to subscribe to the channel and sign up for the alerts so that you don't miss when these shows pop up. If you've been watching throughout the season, we've built winning lineups on the show a couple times. There's been, most recently, we had the Isaiah Likely and the captain a couple weeks ago versus, can't remember who it was versus, but they ended up being the winning lineup in the big DraftKings contest. That's not the first time that's happened on this show with building those winning lineups. I've put videos out recapping those. You can check it out in my video section, but multiple times building the lineup that ended up shipping the big DraftKings contest. So you're going to want to subscribe to this channel and keep an eye out for this content. So I'm going to do things a little bit differently on today's show. As opposed to just having the DraftKings page up throughout the whole thing, I'm going to present the Underdog page when I'm breaking down the player pool so that we can look and see some of these good Underdog pick'em picks, because I'm running a promotion with Underdog where if you use the promo code SEEK, SEEK, then you can make a deposit and get a 50% deposit match up to $1,000. So if you put in $2,000, then you'll get $1,000 deposit bonus, and you're going to want to take advantage of that. We don't see that often these days with a lot of these sites, so take advantage of that with Underdog. Underdog's a trustworthy site, and you can't really go wrong with it. So as we're building our player pool, I'm going to be referring to Underdog. We can take a look at some of the, like the predictions that they have for passing yards or pass attempts and everything like that. Get an idea of, what Vegas is thinking for these players as we're deciding which players are going to have the best matchups and which players are going to, potentially outperform for us this week. So before we get into that, let's take a look at the injury situation. As we always do, a lot of people don't pay attention to the injury situation, which is an advantage for us because this is how we can hand build our way into these lineups where we put in like 5 lineups into the big tournaments, and we're ending up with teams that are contending for first place. Last time Kansas City played on a showdown, or a few times ago when they played on a showdown, I almost won $118K. I had that from all the way from the third quarter up until the very end of the game, where it went into overtime. Should not have gone into overtime. I should have had that 118K locked up before it even hit overtime. But of course, they ended up going into overtime because the Tampa Bay Bucks did not go for 2, which was absolutely idiotic. And they ended up losing the game in overtime. And on that final play of the game, when Kareem Hunt scored his rushing touchdown, it knocked me from 118K down to $400. So let's get it this time, Chiefs. Let's get the showdown ship this time with these Chiefs players, and take a look at this lineup situation. Looking at the injury report for the Chiefs, not a whole lot of injuries on the Chiefs. We're actually seeing them getting a lot healthier. We see Jalen Watson is now healthy, so we don't have that matchup advantage out wide anymore, where we were targeting the Chiefs for wideouts. We don't have that advantage anymore. The weakness of the Chiefs now is pretty much the slot receivers and tight ends that we can target against the Chiefs. Everyone else is pretty much not a great matchup. We don't have good matchups for running backs or anything like that. Chiefs injuries are mostly on their offense. We lost Rashee Rice earlier in the season. Sky Moore is on IR. Mecole Hardman just went on IR. So we got a few offensive guys on IR, but look at the offensive weapons they've picked up. They've picked up DeAndre Hopkins. Xavier Worthy has been playing better. Hollywood Brown just got healthy, and he started playing a couple weeks ago. We haven't seen him break out yet with the Chiefs. And Kareem Hunt they picked up, who's been a pleasant surprise. When Isaiah Pacheco got back, he has not been playing well, and Kareem Hunt has picked up the slack there. So the Chiefs offense is going to be at their healthiest that has been all season since Rashee Rice went out. And we are seeing Mahomes finally have some weapons here. So did not really get to see it come to fruition last week against the Texans, but I imagine that this is going to be a much more competitive game against the Bills, and we should see a lot more performance out of this offense, hopefully this week. With the Bills, we're looking at the injury report. They are healthy on the offense. We have to go down to the defense to see their injuries. Taylor Rapp is out. That's a safety that's out, and we know we target the tight ends when the safeties are out, and that's going to set things up for Travis Kelce, obviously. Christian Benford is questionable. He's in concussion protocol. I don't think that we've got word yet on if he's past that concussion protocol, but if he's out, that's going to be another huge advantage for the Chiefs this week. Other than that, looking at a relatively healthy team. Earlier in the week, Terrell Bernard and Matt Milano were both questionable, but they looked like they were both going to be playing. I believe Milano has a hamstring injury. These are guys that keep Mahomes in check from rushing the ball. So that's going to make things interesting with our underdog situation, because as I mentioned, we're going to be looking at these underdog picks as we're talking through the player pool. You see Mahomes has a passing estimate of 257.5 passing yards. That's pretty high for Mahomes. I would tend to go lower there, but I'd like another lower that we can go on Mahomes in the rushing yards, 25.5 rushing yards. Mahomes does not rush well against the Bills, and earlier this season they held him in check in his rushing yards, and I like going lower for Mahomes on rushing. Josh Allen, on the other hand, he rushes a lot versus the Chiefs, and I am going to go higher on 9.5 rushing attempts for Josh Allen. I think that he can outdo that number, and we should see Josh Allen taking a bulk of the running in this one. He should, as he typically does against the Chiefs, we should see a lot of rushing attempts out of him, and he tends to turn it up in the playoffs anyways. They seem to unleash him a little bit in the playoffs as far as his run game, just like Travis Kelce, where we've seen him get a lot more, a lot more yardage. I think he's 75 yards or more in like 15 straight games or something ridiculous. He's just been on fire as far as the playoffs. I don't hate going higher than 69.5 receiving yards, but I want to take a look first to see if we can get some better plays to help us juice up this pick'em that we're building on Underdog right now. I don't mind him for 6.5 receptions either. I think that he can beat that. Let's go over and look at his history against the Buffalo Bills. If we're looking at Travis Kelce, check out his game logs. Going to go against the Buffalo Bills here. All right, so his receptions against the Bills, looking at the playoffs first, 5 receptions, 8 receptions, 13 receptions. Earlier this season, he only had 2 receptions, but like I said, playoffs, 6 receptions, 8 receptions, 6 receptions, 5 receptions, 3 receptions, 4 receptions. You get the picture. He does get targeted against these Bills as far as his yardage total: 75 yards, 96 yards, and 118 yards in the playoffs versus the Bills. Not much has changed on their defense. They've had the same, defensive-minded head coach, since these guys started basically doing their rivalry. 83 yards against them, 108 yards, 57, 65, 39, 69, etc. So you get the idea. He's outperforming in more games than not. But if we look at just his history in the postseason in general, we can come over here and see how he's done in the postseason these last couple years. 117 yards, 93 yards, 116 yards, 75 yards, 78 yards, 98 yards, 95 yards, 96 yards, 108 yards, 3 in a row with over 100 yards, and basically has been dominating ever since 2020 as far as the postseason. And that is where we see this receiving estimate of 69.5 receiving yards being kind of tasty to take higher on. Or if you wanted to do 6.5 receptions, I do prefer to go higher on 69.5 receiving yards. I think that'd be an easier one to hit. But for the sake of this build, I think that I would rather go higher on 4.5 receptions for Worthy. I think he's going to have the better matchup against Buffalo. I think that Worthy's been incorporated a lot more into this offense. I think that we could see, Worthy have a decent game. James Cook might struggle in this one. Kansas City's been good against the running backs, but we could see them take a run-heavy approach in this one, and then James Cook could end up having a decent game. DeAndre Hopkins, was expecting him to be more involved last week. He was not, and you just got to wonder how involved DeAndre Hopkins is going to be in this offense now that Hollywood Brown is healthy and Xavier Worthy is playing at a high level. But DeAndre Hopkins is a guy that could do well. We got the Buffalo Bills giving up 24.7 DraftKings points a game to wideouts and 16.1 to the slot. So, susceptible all around for the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills also giving up 25.9 DraftKings points a game to the running back position. And they're also susceptible to tight ends, which is why we targeted those Baltimore Ravens against them last week. So the receiver that I think I like the most besides Worthy is going to be Hollywood Brown this week. I like Hollywood Brown. I think that we could see a decent game out of him this week, with not only his 41% of his routes in the slot. That's going to be a good matchup against the Bills, who have been susceptible in the slot. But he's also going to be able to take advantage of that matchup out wide versus the Bills too. So Hollywood Brown, I think, is all around. He's going to be able to take advantage of matchups in this one. I do like his situation. I'm probably going to go higher than 39.5 receiving yards for Brown this week. Or maybe we go higher on his 3.5 receptions. Let's take a look at DraftKings real quick. Let's take a look at Hollywood Brown. I want to see what his longest reception has been with the Chiefs so far. All right, so he had a 17-yard reception against Pittsburgh. He had a 20-yard reception against Houston. Those are his first 2 games with the team. He had no receptions last week against Houston, but we're looking at a 20 and a 17. And his longest here is 18.5, so I don't like that longest reception there. Let's take a look at his receptions. Looking at 5 and 4, before they went against Houston, and he disappeared against Houston. So let's go ahead and stick with that 3.5 receptions for Hollywood Brown, knowing that I like him this week. The tight ends and slot receivers are who we want to target as well versus the Kansas City Chiefs. So if we're looking at guys like Khalil Shakir, looks like they took off this 4.5 receptions off the board. But that's okay because I like Curtis Samuel as well. And I like Curtis Samuel going higher than 1.5 receptions because he's a slot receiver against the Chiefs, and he's done well against the Chiefs in the past. Earlier this season, we saw with Curtis Samuel, we go down to him a little bit. Last game against the Chiefs, he ended up with 6 targets, 5 receptions, 58 yards. I'm going to go ahead and go higher than 1.5 receptions against the Chiefs this week. That's going to give me 4 plays here. And then I'm going to scroll down a little bit more because the tight ends do well against Kansas City as well. Dawson Knox is going for he's currently tied for second all-time Buffalo receiving touchdowns in the playoffs. He's got 6, along with a couple other Chiefs, including Gabe Davis. I would not be surprised if the opportunity is there that they get a touchdown to Dawson Knox playing against this weakened tight end defense. It's gonna spike our pick 'em up. We got 8.7 right now with the 4 guys that we have in there. If we add in Dawson Knox, we're looking at 58 times our money. Now, if we look at these guys, there's not much more with this 25.5. I think that's even too high. I wouldn't mind going lower than 19.5 rushing yards for Mahomes, honestly, but I'm going to keep that there. If we wanted to go higher than 19 or lower than 19.5, that would change this to a 7. Well, let's stick with that. Let's go with 71 times our money with this pick'em. Looking at Patrick Mahomes, lower than 19.5 rushing yards. We're looking at Josh Allen, higher than 9.5 rushing attempts. Hollywood Brown, higher than 3.5 receptions. Curtis Samuel, higher than 1.5 receptions. And Dawson Knox for the anytime touchdown, going for that Bills record for touchdown catches in the playoffs. I think he needs 9 to hit the record. He's currently in second with 6. So don't be surprised if Dawson Knox gets an opportunity in this one. If we bet $5 on this, let's keep it simple. We could potentially win $358. Let's go ahead and do that. Just like playing in a showdown contest, honestly. So we're just playing another showdown contest with this one, except we don't have to compete with the field on it. So let me recap that with you guys because I don't think I was sharing the screen. We're looking at Patrick Mahomes, lower than 19.5 rushing yards. Josh Allen, higher than 9.5 rushing attempts. Hollywood Brown higher than 3.5 receptions. Curtis Samuel higher than 1.5 receptions, and Dawson Knox higher than 0.5 rushing and receiving touchdowns. That was Patrick Mahomes lower than 19.5 rushing yards. I don't know if I said that right. All right, guys. So let's go back over to our DraftKings DraftKings tab here and take a look at who we want to roll with in this showdown lineup. Guys, I mentioned, I like Josh Allen. I think he's going to be rushing more in this game. Patrick Mahomes, I think, is going to be throwing more in this game, and he's going to have the weapons to do it with. Travis Kelce, I think he's set up for a decent game. Shakir is going to be set up with that matchup against the slot receivers for Kansas City. And Worthy, the opposite side. Basically, all the slot receivers in this game are going to have good matchups on either side. Kareem Hunt has been getting more of the work. So if we think that we want to go with a running back on the Kansas City side, then Kareem Hunt would be probably the best play. Hopkins, not really sure what's going on with Hopkins. Hollywood, I like Hollywood this week. I do think that he's going to be set up to have a decent game. Cooper has been MIA, but Kansas City's also good against those deeper receivers. Butker and Bass, I think, are both in play. I think these teams could potentially, I know the Chiefs have struggled in the red zone this year. That could swing in their favor at any point because they've been good everywhere else. But Butker is in play if those struggles continue. Coleman, he's another one of those wideouts. Not super high on him, but we could rotate him in. Both defenses, I think, potentially in play. I like the Chiefs defense a little bit better than the Bills defense in this one. Kincaid, with that matchup against tight ends, tight end defense on Kansas City side, I like Kincaid. I do like Ty Johnson, but I don't like the matchup against the Kansas City run defense. Curtis Samuel in play. Dawson Knox in play. Noah Gray is going to be in play too because the tight ends on both sides have good matchups. So we're looking at a lot of good matchups here by a lot of cheap guys. So should be pretty easy for us to build our lineups. Now, I want to go with one of these mid-level guys for our captain. I'm going to go with Hollywood Brown because I think that this is going to be the week that he breaks out. I just think that there's big potential for Hollywood Brown this week. I'm going to go with Allen. He's going to obviously have the highest floor. I'm going to go with Mahomes too. I like Kelce, and I do like Worthy, but I'm going to go with Shakir here. It's going to leave us with 2,200. If we look at 2,200, that leaves us with options like Noah Gray and Dawson Knox. I like both those guys. I like Knox better. As I mentioned, I think he's going to get a touchdown this week. But this is a situation really where you could just rotate the guys. Since we have Kelce in there already, maybe I'd lean a little bit more towards Knox in this one. If we wanted to swap out of Kelce and go to Worthy, that's where I might put Gray in there. That also would open the door for Matt Collins and Ray Davis and Juju Smith-Schuster, guys like that. But I'd rather leave money on the table with Gray. So that would be an interesting build right there. If I wanted to get Samuel in here, let's get Shakir out. Let's get Worthy out. Let's put Kelce back in. If I wanted Samuel in my lineup instead of Dawson Knox, at least move with 8K. And that's where I can get a guy like Hunt in or Pacheco. Kind of take your pick there. Like either one of those guys could end up having a big week this week. If we don't want to go with Hollywood, if we prefer to stick with Worthy, who we know is going to get the volume, we got Mahomes, Kelce, and Worthy. We got Allen to Curtis Samuel. Let's say we wanted to put in, would we be able to put in Shakir? No, we can't put in Shakir. So we got to stick with Samuel here. And it's going to leave us with 3,800. And again, that Bills defense, I don't mind. I don't mind Dalton Kincaid. And obviously, I don't mind Dawson Knox either. So it leaves us with a bunch of different options there. You also got Tyler Johnson, who's been playing well. I like this direction here. This kind of leaves us with plenty of options. Only thing is we are not able to get Shakir in there, who I think is going to have a decent game this week. But I do like this direction for a build. Now, if we want to switch around our game script a little bit, let's say that the Chiefs defense are able to hold Josh Allen in check. Let's say that Mahomes, we see vintage Mahomes in this playoff game. He's throwing it to Worthy. He's throwing it to Kelce. And on the other side, we want to get Josh Allen in here. It's going to leave us with $3K per guy. So if we wanted to, we could swap out Worthy for Hollywood. Maybe Hollywood has a bigger game, like I was talking about at the top. It leaves us at least with 8,800. Still can't get Shakir in there. So let's go with Samuel. And then that leaves us with 5,800. So that leaves us with Butker as an option, Amari Cooper, Tyler Bass, Coleman. A lot of decent ways that you can go, even with using an expensive captain this week, just because we're going to have these cheap guys in Samuel and Knox and Gray that I think that are all potential to have decent games. We also got Dawson Kincaid, who's pretty cheap at 3,600 too. In the beginning of the season, Kincaid would have been twice his salary. So it goes to show you, how much he's fallen. And Coleman, Coleman has the ability to pop off at any point. Same with Cooper, but they just have difficult matchups this week. But, if they're going to be under-owned, those guys are going to be in play. One guy that I like too is P. Ryan. Let's put P. Ryan in here. Let's take Samuel out. It's going to leave us with 7,600. That can get us to Hunt. But then we only have Josh Allen in there. Let's go back to let's put Worthy in the captain. We got Worthy, Mahomes, Kelce. If I put P. Ryan in there, at least this with 5,600. We can get Brown in there. I don't like Brown if I got all those other receivers. We could put Butker in there. But we also got Cooper as an option to give us a pass catcher for Josh Allen. A lot of ways that we can go with that one. A lot of people are going to want to put Josh Allen in the captain. Let's put Josh Allen in there. Let's give him a couple receivers. I'm going to go cheap with I'm going to go, you know what? I'm going to go one cheap and one expensive guy. So I'm going to go with Shakir. And I don't even think you need to stack him with two guys because obviously he's got that rushing upside. But let's for the sake of argument, let's give him one more receiver in Dawson Knox. Let's say Dawson Knox gets that touchdown this week against that weak tight end defense of Kansas City. Let's get Kelce in there because I think he's going to have a big game no matter what. And if I want to put, if I got Allen and all these guys in, let's get P. Ryan in there. Let's say that P. Ryan is having a big game, and then we can get Mahomes in there. If we want to put Mahomes in here, then we don't necessarily need to have Knox. We can go up to, gives us an option for Kincaid, Samuel, or Knox. So that's a pretty good direction to go in for Josh Allen. Perine's going to be a differentiator. I don't think a lot of people are going to own Perine this week, but I can tell you from experience, Perine, when he scored a touchdown for me in that showdown contest, he knocked me into first, and he was 2% owned in that showdown, and I had first for the majority of the game by like a 5-point margin because of that advantage that Perine gave me. So I don't hate Perine this week against a Buffalo defense that's a little bit more susceptible to the running back position. So, a few different options there, guys. Check out my 2-game slate. I break down the 2-game slate. I also did a showdown episode with Meg Shoop over of FanSpeak for the Philly game. So that's already posted. So check that out. And get me to 30 likes. Get me to 1,800 subscribers. You get me to 1,800 subscribers. I'm going to be putting out a bunch of Super Bowl content when Super Bowl week happens. And I'm going to have a bunch of guest analysts on that week as well. Already got a few lined up. So it's going to be just going to go all out on Super Bowl week, putting out some good shows. So you guys are going to want to check that out. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit the alerts when you subscribe. Give me the 1,800 subscribers. Hit the like button. Give me the 30 likes so we can put out my favorite picks in the comment section when we get closer to lock. And I'll see you guys later on.